Welcome back to the JMach Podcast, where we are combating veteran suicide one story, one conversation at a time. And I'm your host, JMach. Remember, your mental health matters and you're not alone. Don't hesitate to reach out and pick up your phone and call your friends or family, or head over to jmachpodcast.org to stay connected and get on our social medias. Now enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to the JMach Podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce United States Navy veteran David. Welcome to the show, brother.
Woo.
Thanks for making that short drive out here.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. It's good to be here.
Thank you. How are you actually doing today?
I'm good. I got to, spend an hour and 15 minutes on the way here, doing some introspection and reflection on, what this conversation was going to be like, listen to a little bit of a podcast, and, of course, hit traffic on the 10 in Arizona. You can't miss it. Sure. Yeah, I'm good today. Yeah, no complaints.
Now, how are you actually doing? Because you just said you hit traffic, and you told me what the traffic was. So
the podcast that I was listening to was kind of enticing some of that introspection, and I know that I'm not perfect, but I'm always working on myself, and I used to be a very angry individual.
For sure.
And so I still get a little bit of that road rage, but it's nice to at least be aware of it and be like, okay, I don't want to be this person. But yeah, it's brought out something.
So what tools do you use to help mitigate that road rage and that anger that comes with it?
I think just taking a step back and realizing, I've come across a lot of different people and, have done a lot of things, and everyone's living their own life and has their own things going on, and try to just put yourself in their situation. And, sometimes like maybe even if I made a mistake driving and then you can kind of see that the other person is, enraged by that, you're like, okay, they don't understand that I made a mistake, and, it's just miscommunication, and everyone's kind of caught up in their own world. So
I feel like that's all it is, right? But it's hard to, sometimes you don't even want to consider what somebody else is going through. Like you're just ready to rage, and it was just this little, someone cut you off this time, and you're like, all right, fuck it, dude, they're about to get the wrath.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're in that middle of that seeing red, we'll say, what steps and tools do you use to take a step back? Like, how do you take that step back?
I took very deep breaths.
Okay.
And I go back to my breath for just about everything, whether it's, physical activity or, something that's challenging me this way. Breathing is the first thing I go to. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like, I've been trying, when I catch myself in situations, I've been trying to do like box breathing.
Yeah.
One of the times, I forget what it was, but I was super fucking anxious and I didn't know why. And so I was like trying to do the box breathing, and that's almost like a form of meditation. I don't know if it's technically is right, but like I had to get in the zone of like, okay, breathe for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. And then, my brain just kept trying to take me out of it, right? Like I just wanted to stay in that anger or
right.
that fucking mess that I was in, but I really didn't. I just wanted out.
Yeah, no, box breathing definitely is a form of meditation. I do it like to get me into my meditative state. And the goal of meditation, isn't to just be like in this, bliss. It's being aware that your mind wants to wander and then recentering. And so I use the 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. I do the same thing when I'm meditating, and yeah, it's taking me to some good places. Yeah.
All right, so this is what I actually want to talk about, is like the mental journey that you went on. But first, let's talk about the root of it all. How was your childhood?
I had a decent childhood. We grew up, like middle class. I lived in San Diego till I was 7. We moved to Prescott, Arizona. So I grew up in northern Arizona. And then, obviously strayed from the path a little bit. Obviously, I guess people don't know me here. But my parents got divorced when I was like 15, 16.
Okay.
Wasn't the prettiest of divorces. My dad is an alcoholic. And, so it led to some ugly days. And that's when I started drinking, smoking, going to parties. I didn't have the tools that I have now back then,
for sure,
or the maturity, the emotional intelligence to respond in a healthy way. So I strayed from the path hard. Before that, actually, since, I'm sure we'll get into the military thing, but before all of that, I was in the Young Marines. I had a very structured, I loved, it's kind of like the Boy Scouts, I guess.
Okay.
But I spent 3 years in the Young Marines, like going to Marine bases, training, was doing push-ups and pull-ups and running when I was like 9 years old or whatever. So that gave me a lot of structure and discipline. So before all of, the divorce stuff happened, I had some structure and discipline in my life that I think I've always kind of like had a foundation on. So even though I strayed from the path, I think it was inevitable that I would be back on a good path at some point. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that you're like a golden boy for them to like recruit into the military, right? Like everything you just said is what you need to be in the military.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how did how did the divorce affect you?
Yeah, I felt very alone and isolated. Some of that was, of course, like me doing that to myself.
For sure.
It turned into like, your fatherly figure is supposed to be someone that you look up to and learn all of these, life things from. And that's not really what I had. It kind of switched roles, and I was trying to be a foundation for him, because he was losing his family and everything. And then, I turned into a little shitbag teenager. So, of course, I started butting heads with my mom. We ended up moving into a 1-bedroom apartment in Anthem. That's how we made it to Anthem. And, I started selling weed and got hooked on Xanax for a while. And, it took a bad U-turn. Yeah.
What was able to pull you out of that?
I think I kind of pulled myself out of it. So all of the money that I made from selling marijuana, I actually started renting an apartment in Mesa and put myself through the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences. Okay. So I graduated high school. 3 weeks later, I started at that school. For people that don't know, it's like one of the #1 schools in the country for audio engineering. It was a 7-month program when I went. I met some really cool dudes, and I was still like smoking and drinking and all that stuff while I was going to that school, but my mindset had shifted from like, okay, like I was selling weed and being a little shitbag teenager to I can make money in other ways and hustle in other ways. So I graduated from that school, and like in high school, I was like a C and D student, didn't put forth the effort, didn't have the passion. For sure. And I realized that, once I got into this school and started doing this, that when you have a passion for something, it totally changes the game. Like I graduated from there with like 100% attendance and a 4.0. I was like, where was that, in high school?
Right.
And so the day I graduated from there, I packed up my 97 Camry and moved to Hollywood, and, had the dreams and aspirations of a 19-year-old to make it in Hollywood. And that was the next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I want to still focus on the divorce and the family real quick.
Yeah. I got a little off track, sorry.
No. It's perfect, dude. I just want to know how are your relationship with your parents now? Yeah,
so now, like me and my mom, we have been through it all, and she is my foundation at this point. I can talk to her about anything. We've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro together.
That's awesome.
We do trips and runs and hikes, and she has supported me more than I can never repay her back. And my dad, we're on good terms. We're trying to build a relationship. But he has his own mental health struggles, and it's really hard. I'm not a professional, counselor or anything, and I've dealt with my own problems, so it's really hard for me to know what to say to him, to build the relationship, because he's still coming to me with a lot of these things that like I'm dealing with myself. And like I said before, he's supposed to be that rock and foundation for me, and it's not really that way. So, but the relationship is good. I love my dad. But it's a little awkward, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. How have you been able to, I'm assuming you've had to forgive your mom at some point for all the things and recognize that this was her first time experiencing life, and she was going through it on top of what her parents gave to her and that generational trauma, right? But what helped you forgive your mom?
It wasn't really me coming to terms with forgiving her. It was me coming to terms with I need to apologize and understand what she did for me, because through the divorce, I was a terrible teenager doing terrible stuff. And she was working 3 jobs. She moved to Anthem so that I could play travel hockey down here in Phoenix while still driving to Prescott every single day for probably a minimum wage job. Travel hockey is not cheap, you know, and she was making the sacrifice every day to drive an hour and a half for a minimum wage job just so, you know, we could eat Panda Express on a Friday night. You know, like that was our fancy meal on Friday nights. And so once I, you know, went through my journey and, you know, got to reflect on everything that she did for me, it was like, wow, like how could I have treated her like that? You know, I need to apologize and understand what she has done for me and our family.
For sure. How come you haven't been able to use that mindset towards your dad?
Because I think my mom has done the work for herself, and my dad, I mean, it's a poison, you know, what he's addicted to.
For sure.
And I know he wants to change. No one wants to be stuck in that cycle, but it's like I don't see the initiative to break it, you know?
For sure. Yeah, dude, I don't know. That's hard, right?
It is hard, yeah.
Because how easy it could be. There was times, especially in the Marine Corps, that I could just cold turkey quit drinking for months, a year at a time. And then there was times like, I don't want to fucking quit. Like, why would I quit? So, yeah, dude, it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
It's just a little seed drop planted in your brain, okay? Now, let's move forward. Where were you at in your journey? What led you? Okay, so you graduated, Crass. You went to Hollywood. When did the military come into your eyes?
Yeah, so moved to Hollywood. You know, I was there for like 2 years. I lived in my 97 Camry, 19 years old. I could write a fucking book about, you know, what happened in Hollywood. Epic time. During this time, my best friend since I was 11 years old, Alex Cerna, he was a rescue swimmer down on Coronado in San Diego. So, like, I mean, almost every single weekend I would go down to Coronado. You know, they would sneak me onto base. We'd be drinking in the barracks and having fun, going to the beach, not just drinking. This relationship was not founded on drinking, but it was involved, right? And so I just saw the camaraderie that he had with his fellow rescue swimmers, and I was like, damn, like I just always wanted to be around them, you know, because obviously they accepted me into their little brotherhood and like lifelong friends out of this relationship. And so things started to go south in Hollywood. I lost like the main gig that was bringing me money. You know, the other 2 things I had were internships. You know, they were fun, but they weren't providing. You know, I could not live in Hollywood with what I was doing. And so I was like, all right, what am I going to do? And I mean, it didn't take more than 30 minutes after losing like that main job that was bringing me money that I was just like, military. I don't know what it was, but whether it was the young Marines and the influence that I had from my friend down in Coronado, but I had no doubt that I was like, I'm going to the military.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Sorry, my brain is just telling me to tell yourself to forgive yourself for whatever you're holding on to about your dad's issue. Forgive your inner child of it. It's not your responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate that. And I think the biggest thing for me here is being vulnerable in this space. And, you know, I know this is going to be distributed, and I've never talked about this openly or like put it on a social media platform. You know, I talk to my close ones about this relationship, but yeah, I never thought that I would like openly share some of these things until maybe later in life, but here we are.
You know, I appreciate you taking the time to be vulnerable and open, because it's not like you just walk next door. You had to drive to come here to do this, so I appreciate that. And if I'm pushing too much or you feel like I'm pushing, bro, just let me know and I'll redirect, all right? That's not my intentions, but I don't know, I just felt like there was something there that you're holding on to. I just want you to be solid.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I mean, I'm all about being vulnerable, especially within the veteran community. And if we had more than an hour, we could talk even more. So, yeah, I love being pushed out of my comfort zone. So,
well, you're in luck because our next guest canceled.
Okay, all right.
You have up to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now he's like, fuck. No, it's cool. We won't do it to you.
No, it's all good.
But yeah, all right. So, what led you to the Navy then?
Yeah. So my best friend was a rescue swimmer in the Navy. So I started, like doing some research and getting some advice from him. Originally, I was signed up to be a medic in the National Guard.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is where, this is like my life-changing story, right? Is starting now, essentially. So my best friend, Alex Cerna, we met him when I was 11, fostered, this great relationship between us. I don't know what he saw in me, but he looked up to me, right? And this guy was 6'5", tall, dark, and handsome, just an incredible human being, right? A rescue swimmer in the Navy, like chiseled chin and abs, and he looked up to me as like inspiration. I don't know what it was, but, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, this is just like the reality of it. And so I was like going to go be a medic in the National Guard. And he's like, no, dude. He's like, I think you could be a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, what the fuck is a Navy SEAL? Like I was just rolling blunts in Hollywood at a hip hop production studio, like on Hollywood Boulevard. And this guy's like, yeah, I think you should go to Buds. And I'm like, what's Buds? And so 6 months after leaving Hollywood, I had a boat on my head in Coronado, in the middle of SEAL training. Damn. And that's all because of him, I didn't make it through. I DOR'd Monday of Hell Week, but I found new physical and mental limits that I had never would have known if it weren't for him believing in me for whatever reason,
For sure.
So yeah, I ended up, I moved back to Phoenix. I depped out of Phoenix, left for boot camp in May of 2016. And yeah, 2 months later, I was in the SEAL pipeline and met a bunch of cool dudes and lifelong friends. Yeah, so dropped out of Hell Week, and that's where like one of my biggest first mental plummets happened in life.
Yeah. That was gonna be my follow-on question, right? First of all, I didn't know you can go right into the Navy SEALs. For some reason, I thought you had to be in the Navy or one of the branches already, and then you go. But how was that mental, like, because you had to ring the bell, right?
Yep.
It was on you.
Yep, that was on me.
How did that affect you?
Yeah, it crushed my soul because like I was even aware like while I was ringing the bell, because I fell in love with the pipeline, even though I hadn't known about it like 6 months before. I loved the aspect that I was being pushed to limits every single day, like, and I got a high from it. A lot of guys in SEAL training, like, the day-to-day in Buds is what sucks, right? And every day I was waking up like, dude, we made it to another day. We did the 50-meter underwater swim, and I'd be like looking at the guys like, dude, I just did that. They're like, okay, like we've been training for years for this. I'm like, all right, well, this is all new to me, So I was like a deer in the headlights every single day, but like with excitement.
For real.
And so when I was quitting, like ringing the bell, I was aware, like I wasn't out of it. I was just forward thinking. I was still thinking like, oh, we still have 4 days of this with no sleep. I'm like, I don't think I can do this, and I just got in my own head. It was like gray clouds just took over my brain, right? And so like I was ringing the bell in tears, like, why am I doing this? And I couldn't get out of my own head. And so, yeah, I took a huge dip in my mental health after that. And my buddy Alec, he picked me up the next day, like, that's the type of friend he was. I was still in tears probably for, 2 days after. Sure. And he just took me to his house and, made sure that I was good and took me out to eat. We went to the beach, whatever it was, just to try to take my mind off of things. And so, yeah, that's like, yeah.
How did that affect you the rest of the time in the Navy?
So going from, the special operations community and how they operate and getting a taste of it, and then going to the fleet, and not just going to the fleet, but going to the fleet as an undesignated seaman. They call it the Navy's bitch. You're just doing maintenance and preservation. I was actually the one painting the side of the ship. Yeah. Those horror stories. And the quality of guys that you get, through the SEAL pipeline, and then some of the leadership that I had in the Navy, I was just like torn, because what I thought of the military was just being broken down on a daily basis. I joined the military because I thought people had high morales and held themselves to a high standard. And then that's not what I was experiencing while I was in the fleet. And then so, yeah, just being on the ship, working whatever 12-hour days. And once you go on deployment, 16-hour days, standing watch, not according to circadian rhythm, you know, like I'm waking up in the middle of the night and not complaining, but this is just like the reality of it. And it just was like beating me down into a darker, deeper hole, you know?
Absolutely. So yeah, dude, it sucks that you were probably labeled as like a shitbag and a turd, right? Because you tried to outperform, or you performed and you just didn't make it, right? And then you come back, so now everybody treats you like you're a piece of shit. Not that you were, but being treated that way, plus the mental shit that you were going through from not completing it, dude, you probably had to feel like you were a piece of shit for a minute.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel the same way. Like in boot camp, we were told civilians are dirty, Marines have the higher standards. You get to the fleet, everything's fucking flipped.
Yeah.
Dude. Marines are fucking dirt. Fleet life, there's some dirty people out there.
Yeah, 100%.
So you definitely, I think that does play a huge role in military. It doesn't matter the level. It plays a role in every business out there, or school, whatever. If you don't keep that standard and you keep lowering it, you're going to get people with lower standards that are going to continue to lower it.
Yeah.
And but we just need leaderships that are willing to have these conversations, or at least not treat someone like shit because they didn't complete what they went out to. Right.
And I mean, it's crazy. I started jiu-jitsu again a few months ago, and you know, there's some guy who was former Navy as well, still calling me a buds dud.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's time to grow up, you know, like, but people will take any chance, you know, to fucking kick you while you're down. I'm not down anymore, you know, but like, I don't think that's necessary at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
We definitely destroy ourselves as much as we claim we're trying to build each other up.
Yeah.
So this podcast is opening up to more than, it originally started for just veterans. And then I realized, like, as I was promoting it, how much everybody needs that extra reminder they're not alone. We all have our struggles. So now it's like veteran-led and community-driven. So like we just want to help out the community. But lost my train of thought on why I started that story.
No, I can take it back.
Cool.
So, I go to the ship, go to the fleet. And so one of the quotes that I came across during this time and is stuck with me since, that I realized was driving me, you know, into this deeper hole is comparison is the killer of confidence. So a lot of the guys that I was in training with, right, you know, they ended up making or whatever. So inevitably I'm going to compare myself to them, right?
For sure.
They made it, I didn't. Why am I here? You know, I took myself out of the fight, whatever. And I'm just beating myself down because I'm comparing myself, you know, to this small group of people that have made it, when in reality, and when you're in the SEAL pipeline, they hold it on the pedestal. It's like a Navy SEAL or nothing, you know, like if you don't make it through this training, you're pretty much a nobody, right? When in reality, there's millions of other ways to be successful and to contribute to society and be of value to your community. But when you're in the pipeline and then out of it, that's all you're thinking about, right? So I'm just like, oh, I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm a piece of shit, right? And so I just started digging myself into this deeper hole. And yeah, so this was end of 2016, 2017, you know, year on the ship, getting ready for deployment. We were supposed to deploy July of 2018. And in May of 2018, I got a call from my best friend, Alec. And, or actually, sorry, it was a Facebook message. He was out on a 2-week underway out at sea. And he's like, hey, man, you know, my girlfriend just broke up with me. I dared him to ask this girl out our freshman year of high school. So that's like how intertwined our lives are, right? And so I'm like, shit, dude, like they've been together on and off for like 8 or 9 years or something. I'm like, this can't be good, right? So he gets back from his underway and I'm like there to, you know, support him, whatever. And I'm on the ship. I'm an undesignated seaman, E3, not making shit for money, don't have a car, right? He calls me one day crying, and I've never heard my best friend cry, right? And I'm like, okay, my best friend's pretty fucked up. So I get off of work at, 1600. I Uber over to his house, and, I walk in, and he's in his room on the floor. Lights are off, with a bottle of alcohol between his legs and a gun to his head. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like my best friend is really fucked up. And so I took the gun from him, and, I disassembled the gun and like I hid it throughout his house because I wasn't going to bring it back onto a Navy ship because that was my home, right?
Yeah.
And, so I realized that he was pretty fucked up. And so every single day for the next week, I would get off of work. I would Uber over to his house. I would take him out to dinner. I would take him to the gym. We watched the sunset on the beach. He lived right on the beach. And I was just making sure, that I was doing for him what he did for me after I dropped from buds. He was just there for me, and I wanted to be there for him. And I saw that he was like really like always on his phone, like waiting for a message from her or whatever it was. And so every night I just made sure that he fell asleep before me. And this was like 3 or 4 a.m. every single day, right? So I would go to sleep at 4 a.m. I would wake up at 5 to Uber back to the ship to do my job. And the second I got off of work, my Uber was there waiting so that I could go back and just be there for him. And I thought things were getting better throughout the week, like he seemed to be like, getting his mind off of it. And I was doing what I knew at the time to support someone who I thought, who I knew was in like not a good place, right? And looking back on it now, like I know I did everything, that I could. But yeah, like Saturday we went to a concert, an Iration concert. It's a reggae band. And we went with a group of friends. And, we were drinking, and like that's one of the mistakes that, I look back on. Like that's a mistake that I regret because, I guess I got too drunk. I kind of blacked out, and he wanted to leave the concert. So he like told all of, the rest of our friend group, he's like, hey, me and David are going to go back to my apartment. We're done for the night, whatever. He calls us an Uber, and we go back to his place. And that was the first night over the past 7 days that I had fallen asleep before him. And at, I think it was 4:46 a.m., I woke up to the gunshot. I didn't know it was a gunshot, and I just woke up out of my drunkenness, and I just knew something was wrong. And so, yeah, I turned on my flashlight and walked into his room and saw my best friend dead.
Damn.
Yeah. And at that moment, that picture is just ingrained in my brain probably for the rest of my life.
I can imagine.
That wasn't my best friend. That was my brother. That was my soulmate. Like he brought out the best in me, and vice versa. Like everywhere we went,
For sure.
And a month later, I went on deployment. 8 months, and yeah, it was just a roller coaster of emotions. That month leading up to deployment, I was probably drunk every single day and just like flooding myself with alcohol and trying to distract myself with women, and it was not good. Yeah.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you for sharing that and opening up. I want to say he's still your motivation, right?
100%.
Now you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
And like he's with you as you're doing it. I feel that yours with you, dude.
Yeah.
So that's heavy, man. Because on top of that, you probably didn't get a chance to work through not making it through buds and all that.
Right.
So things just kept compiling, plus whatever happened or didn't happen on deployment and just being in the military in general.
Yeah.
Right? How have you been able to work on that, dude?
It's still a work in progress. But I realized that I just have to do everything right if I want to be like mentally stable. I can't really take days off, at the moment. So every day is like, what can I do for myself today, to make sure that I'm bringing the best version of myself for myself and for everyone that I come in contact with every day, right? But yeah, I mean, it was intense. Like that month leading up to deployment, we had a 2-week underway, and this is where like my relationship with the military dwindled even more, is because his memorial was in that month leading up to deployment, right? And I had a 2-week underway during that time, and my command master chief, I tried to put in leave so that I could stay back for his memorial, and my command master chief was like, we think it would be best if you stay with your Navy family and go on this underway. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you've got to be kidding, right? Like, to me, it was a family member. Imagine if like, no, you need to go on this work trip. you don't need to go to your mother's memorial.
No, for sure.
That just doesn't make any fucking sense. And so I was just numbing myself for a month. I ended up not going on the underway even without their permission. So technically I was like AWOL or whatever, but I had a really good senior chief who backed me. And then, yeah, like, dude, my grandpa died the day before I left for deployment, and I was so numb from everything else that I didn't even care. And like, obviously, like, that hurts me now even saying that, because like, I loved my grandpa. I lived with him for a little bit when we first moved from California. Great role model in my life, but I was so numb from everything else, and, you know, witnessing my best friend kill himself, that I didn't even care that my grandpa died. Like, that's how bad of a place I was in.
Dude, I can imagine. The mentality in the military sucks, but I do understand why it's there.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be put on that pedestal as a Navy SEAL to believe you're on that pedestal.
Right.
To do the things that 100%. You need to do as a Navy SEAL. And then you could break it down to being in the Navy. Like, they talk, we'll go to the Marine Corps because I know the Marine Corps, right? Like, yo, we're the best of the best out there, right? Sexiest uniforms, all that shit. But we do things that nobody else is going to, and that's just an average Marine.
Right.
So I do understand that mindset. But when we're no longer in that position and we get put into a different position, we need the leaders that are going to be able to support us and uplift us, not be like, oh, yeah, you are a shitbag. Then, bro, I can't imagine the heavy heart you're carrying. I think you, just like I tell myself I need to talk to my inner child, you need to talk to your inner self at that age.
Yeah.
And forgive yourself, because you did do everything in your wheelhouse that you knew was possible. And you probably gave him a week longer of life, because if it wasn't for you, and if it wasn't for you being willing to drink with him and doing the things you did with him, he probably would have ended that sooner. So you got him out of his misery. You did what you needed to do. And now your journey is to improve yourself from that. So find the learning lesson in all that pain, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I haven't really heard those words before, that I gave him a week longer of life. So that is an amazing perspective for sure.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Yeah.
I wish there was more I could say, and I wish I could take that pain away from you, but you're getting stronger each and every day, and you continue to get stronger. But I do want to hit on, you say you have to do this shit every day. You can't take days off.
Yeah.
We just posted a clip yesterday with Scott DeLuzio, and he was talking about that he was going through all his therapies and all that. And finally he's like, oh, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. So I stopped going. And then it all just comes right back, right?
Yeah.
Same for me. Whether I'm on my new medication that I'm taking or something different, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm feeling good. Life's great. I don't need to do this today. I can relax. And then it just slowly creeps in from that thought.
Right.
Not even the action of relaxing or not going to the gym or XYZ. Just the thought allows everything to start creeping. I'll say it's the devil, right? Like, it's either the good or bad, and the bad just starts creeping in. And you described it earlier, how that dark shadow
clouds.
just,
Yeah,
dude,
man.
that shit comes real quick. And I'm going to be honest, what got that dark cloud to go away for me recently is I started to microdose.
Yeah.
I was doing Western medicine, Western psychology, Western everything. That shit wasn't working for me anymore. It did its justice, but I felt like, dude, there's something in the way. There's still a lot in the way, and it's all leading back to me, right? I'm in my own way, but to like break these barriers, I had to step out and do something differently.
Yeah.
So let's dive into your mental health journeys, because from what I know, you go on wild ones, whether you're going to a different country to explore or you're doing the work. Sorry, let's stay in line. So after that happened, you went on your deployment, and when did you decide to get out?
So it wasn't really a decision. Yeah, we'll finish the military career there. So month leading up to deployment, drunk every day. The day I was leaving for deployment, with choice and kind of forced to, but you know, some people did bring alcohol on the ship. I said I was going to stay sober the whole deployment, because I knew the state of my mental health, and if I were to drink, something bad or ugly was going to happen, right?
Sure.
So I was sober for the whole 8-month deployment. And you know, the Navy thing is you get to go on land for 2 days. You're going to get fucked up for those 2 days. Like, that's probably 90% of the ship. And I chose every time. And, you know, I did, that didn't stop me from hanging out with my buddies. And I had a really good support system on deployment. You know, I had like 4 or 5 really good friends who are my brothers today still. And every time that they would go out for beers, I was drinking espressos and having some sort of like baked good, you know? So like I was still able to partake and have my fun. Funny story real quick. The day I got back from deployment, I had 3 IPAs and ended up in the drunk tank.
Damn.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, what a great welcome back to the U.S.
For sure.
So a month after I got back from deployment, and the whole time I was on deployment, I was putting in to go back to SEAL training. A month after I got back, I got accepted, so I went back to SEAL training. Ended up taking myself out of the fight again in Hell Week, but this time something else was kind of playing into it. I had a pretty traumatic injury to my hip week 2 of first phase. I had a stress fracture in the femoral head, and I just had like this sharp shooting pain down my thigh, like every single step I was taking. And so I dealt with that the whole 3rd week, and I got into first phase, and it was just like this aching, you know, thing that I was like, I can't do this. And I actually just had surgery on that hip 5 years after. So I've been dealing with it for the last 5 years and finally got it taken care of. So yeah, went back to Buds, dropped again, and I just fell deeper into the hole, right? Started comparing myself to all of my friends from that class. You know, a few of my really good buddies made it through, and within like 6 months, they all got married, bought a house, had 2 kids, a brand new truck, you know, like all the same. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like that could have been me. That could have been me. Like, why isn't that me? And so I ended up being TAD. When you drop from Buds, they send you to a holding command, and then that holding command sent me to like base security to stand gate guard duty for the base. And I realized that nobody was taking accountability for me. So I took advantage of that, but I wasn't in the best mental state. So I stopped showing up. I didn't go to work for like 30 days, but no one was like taking accountability for me. So nobody knew. And I ended up getting really drunk, fell into a really bad spot. And this is all told to me. I don't know. I blacked out, but apparently I tried suicide by cop. I ended up in a mental health ward for 7 days. And from there, the psychiatrist or psychologist was like, do you want to get out of the Navy? And I don't think I could have said yes quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, walk me through all that. How do you wake? You woke up in the psych ward?
I woke up in the psych ward, yeah.
What was that
pretty
like?
Much. It was fucking terrible, you know? Like, what I do for my mental health is usually outdoors and like physical activity, so having that stripped from me and then them telling me that I'm an alcoholic and trying to feed me pills to wean off of the alcohol. I am an alcoholic, but I don't want to, like back then, I wasn't drinking every day, but when I did drink, I would black out every single time without question. Like I cannot have just 2 beers. And that's why.
What's the point?
Yeah. Like I'm almost 2 years sober and clean now because I know that 2 beers is never enough. You know, I feel that buzz and it's like, all right, we're riding till dawn. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had the opportunity to get out of the Navy from there. And yeah, this was March 2020. So peak COVID. And another story.
Jesus, dude. You really do need to write a book because everything you talk about, we can go different avenues.
Right, yeah.
So what was it? You were already struggling mentally.
Yeah.
What was the transition? How did the transition affect you out of the military?
Yeah, it was not good because like I was looking to get away from, you know, having the like incompetent leadership tell me what to do on a daily basis. And when I transitioned out, you know, the government was still telling me to put a mask on and you can't do this. So I'm like, what the fuck? I can't get away from it, you know?
For sure.
So the transition wasn't good. Like finding a job in that time wasn't a thing. So I got out in March, and from March until August, I just started running long distances. You know, everything was closed. You couldn't go out and like really meet people. You know, even some friends got a little weird, like trying to give you elbow bumps. So it was like, you know, weird time for everyone. And to be transitioning out of the Navy on those circumstances just made it even fucking worse.
For sure.
So I just started running long distances. And that was like, I don't know. That's what I did for my mental health. I don't know if it was the total right thing because I mean, obviously there's worse routes to take, you know.
I think that's a pretty
could have
good
been doing
one.
drugs, but I might have been running from something as well and not facing all of my problems.
Well,
But
Forrest just kept running too.
yeah,
So
yeah, he did. But then I started at ASU in August because that was just like my easiest route into a career field and into the next chapter of life was using the GI Bill.
did you take it serious at first though? Like school?
Yeah, I did take it serious. Like I was still like having fun as things started to open up again and like try to enjoy myself for the first time in however many years. But I did take school serious. Like I always studied and I graduated summa cum laude, and, you know, like whatever that fucking means, right? But like
Congratulations,
I put
guess.
forth the effort, you know, and
Okay.
the degree program was sports science and performance programming, which
Okay.
like I'm super passionate about just optimal health, optimal performance. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's good. I feel like using the GI Bill, right? Like it's kind of just like a space holder for some people.
Yeah.
I never wanted to go to school, so I did not properly take advantage of that opportunity that I had. But yeah, dude, I'm grateful to hear that you were able to. Outside of running, what are other therapies are you into?
Yeah. So now I've journaled on and off for probably 10 years. And I'll go through stints where I'm journaling every day for like months, you know, miss a couple days and then I'm back on it. But journaling is probably my number one thing, like consistently that I'm like, you know, doing some introspection on. And it's really where I get to talk to myself a lot. Meditate. I started that practice maybe like almost 2 years ago, but it's very inconsistent because it's hard for me to get to that meditative state. But that's not the goal, right? The goal is just to show up. What else? Yeah, being outdoors and now just being involved in the veteran community and sharing the vulnerabilities like this. And yeah, I can plug all the programs that I've been through here soon, but like being consistent in the veteran community and being able to share stories and hear others is like huge for me.
Absolutely. You were telling me something right before we started recording that you wanted to save. What are the chances you remember what we were talking about?
Oh, I think that was the was it the Veterans in the Wild group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you wanted to bring up about them?
So them, but also other organizations as well, like this hat I'm wearing, Veterans on the River. I'm constantly seeking things like these nonprofits because they facilitate a space where you can be vulnerable and open up with other veterans, you know, who have probably most likely have been through similar things, right? So Veterans in the Wild, it's a fairly new nonprofit, but they took 4 veterans up to the Navajo Nation backpacking trip. We hiked to Rainbow Bridge and, you know, had the campfire talks and all that good stuff. Everything was, you know, funded. And Veterans on the River, this hat, Jason Dickinson, he was the company commander for Pat Tillman.
Oh, wow.
He started this one. It's two weeks up in Salida, Colorado, where you learn how to whitewater raft, and you translate everything that you learn on the river to real life situations. There's, you know, a lot of soft skills. They do leadership and development, resume, LinkedIn work, emotional intelligence. They brought in like a professional drummer to like, you know, drum therapy, and so it was just 2 weeks of like really getting to like dive deep. Yeah,
That's awesome, dude. Have you been to like traditional therapy to talk to somebody?
yeah, I have. So I tried it a couple times, like after getting out of the Navy through the VA, and it just wasn't the right person, or I wasn't ready for it. And then I found out about the Headstrong Project. They offer free 30 sessions to veterans, and they'll find a therapist like super close to your house. So once I found out about that program, they hooked me up with a therapist, and you know, like I built a really good relationship with this therapist, and it was the first time where I was really able to like open up and be vulnerable without thinking that, you know, like, oh, this person, you know, has their own problems. I always thought that, you know, like who is a therapist to tell me or work through my problems when they have their own? But like you can't think like that. You know,
sure.
There are people that can help you, and so I did that. I'm not currently in therapy. I stopped back in like November, so it's been a few months. But yeah, I have taken that route as well.
It's interesting that you say you had that mindset towards therapy, because I have that mindset towards personal trainers.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I know what to do. I just don't do it. Right? But I got to accept that other people have more knowledge and understanding. Like a lot of the coaches, they could never play the sport they're coaching, or not at the high level. But then you could be a great coach.
Right.
So I just got to stop putting myself on such a pedestal, even though I hold myself at a low. It's complicated in my brain, if that makes sense.
No, 100%, dude. I totally understand. And even if the one thing that you could take away from it is like the accountability aspect, you know, you have someone, hopefully they're passionate about what they're doing, that they will hold you accountable to whatever, you know, so.
For sure. I guess when you get your master's, I'll trust you then.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you up to now? What do you like to do for hobbies?
Yeah, so between my undergrad and master's program, I took a year off and I bought a one-way ticket to Europe. I've climbed the tallest mountain in 15 different countries and plan to keep going. So that's like my probably number one hobby right now. I just started jiu-jitsu again a few months ago. Like I said, I had hip surgery November 1st, so I'm like finally starting to move again and be able to participate in the activities that I like. Yeah, so mountaineering, jiu-jitsu. I mean, I put journaling on there. I love to read, but I don't do it as much as I would like. So yeah, what else? And always doing research on new veterans organizations that I can just contribute to or be a part of or participate in. Yeah, that's like probably I'd consider that a hobby at this point.
So what research have you done on the JMach podcast?
Oh, well, I've been following you for about, what, was that 22? I think it was April of 22.
Yeah, it was post-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when the Super Bowl was here.
Yeah.
So whenever that was.
Yeah, so I definitely watch the podcasts every now and then, and I love the work that you're doing and the space that you hold for other people. It's amazing. Yeah, and that's why I don't mind driving an hour and 15 minutes. I'll definitely come back and do it again, man.
Awesome,
yeah.
Dude. I'd love to have you again. Thank you. Do you have any saved rounds, anything I missed that you want to get out on this first episode?
I think that's good for now, man. Yeah.
Well, how can people find you?
I guess
he doesn't want to be found.
Yeah, my Instagram is
we need your street address.
_Hamrick, HAMRICK. I don't really post that often, but yeah, if you want to reach out, I love just being someone there. Like I have a lot of buddies from the Navy that reach out because they know that I'm on this path of introspection and just trying to be the best person that I can be. So I always have like people reaching out for guidance and tips, whether I'm qualified to do it or not. I love being, that person for people. So yeah,
sure.
if you just want to talk or whatever, yeah, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, man. Was that an hour?
I don't know.
No, we hit just under an hour,
Okay.
like 50 minutes.
It felt like 15 minutes.